URC Power Rankings after 14 rounds of the competition, folks. Bringing back the Power Rankings for the last few rounds as the competition really hots up for those top 8 spots. Haven't been doing Power Rankings thus far, largely because the competition was at times quite unaligned in terms of the number of games played between the sides. The South African team starting later, and then at times I think it was the Lions and the Bulls were a couple of games behind everybody else, so it was a bit out of whack. But now everybody is back in alignment. Let's go through the power rankings and see how they differ from the table. If you're new to the power rankings, the whole idea is we put more value on the more recent results to try and track what the current form is like, so less value on the old results, which will differ from the table, because on the table, once you've got points on the bank, they count forever. And we're trying to look at things like, did you beat strong teams or weak teams, home or away, big margins or small margins. Essentially, those are the kind of factors we're looking at. I feel like we can probably all agree on the Dragons being at the bottom, and we can probably all agree on Leinster being at the top. Everything else is, I think, pretty much up for discussion. But the Dragons are one win from their season thus far, 1-13. They are genuinely miles off the pace, which is sad to see, but that is just where things are at. And Leinster are the opposite record. They are 13-1. So they are genuinely miles ahead of everybody else. I don't think there's much negotiating the power rankings spots for either of those sides. But the table and my power rankings are pretty close for a lot of other teams. The second team surprised me. In 15th comes Connacht. When I saw that, I had to recheck all my numbers, and admittedly I just went through 14 rounds of power rankings in one sitting, which was a bit, I don't know, made me a bit bleary-eyed looking at spreadsheets and whatnot. But Connacht, second bottom. Where's Zebre? It's always Dragons and Zebre for as long as I've been doing URC power rankings. But I guess a closer look at Connacht's record in recent times has not been fantastic. If I am not mistaken, they are 2 wins from their last 8 games in the URC. Like, they had a relatively decent start to the competition. I think they won in rounds 2 and 3 to have a positive record at the start of the season. They won in round 6, I think, against the Dragons, but then in more recent times, 2 from their last 8 is not the sign of a side in great form. They lost at Munster, home to Munster at the weekend. But yeah, the record is just not there if we are putting more value on recency. So Connacht, a little bit surprising. And then the Lions are also there, relatively low. So both of these sides, with relatively decent records. I mean, Connacht's 5-9. The Lions are 6-8 in their season. The Lions, I think, had an even better start to the season. They went, was it their first 4 games in a row? They managed to win, but the Lions' recent record is also pretty terrible. I think they're on 3 losses in a row at the moment, and their playoff chances, which at one point were looking pretty decent, seem to be kind of slipping away. They got hammered 42-0 against genuine title challengers, or looking to defend their title, Glasgow, at the most recent week. So yeah, recent times have not been great for either of those sides. And then even Cardiff, who I think up until the most recent round were actually in a playoff spot. But likewise, their record, I think, looks better at the start of the season compared to their more recent one. If I'm not mistaken, and as I said, if I have made any mistakes, somebody correct me in the comments because I did it all at once. But 1-6 from their last 6 games. So, yeah, their recent record for Cardiff in terms of pushing to secure a playoff spot has sadly not been great. They lost at Benetton in the most recent round, only by a point, but it is one of those games that if you are hunting down the playoffs, you probably needed to win. We've got a bottom row done, and there's no Zebre. I am as perplexed as you are, but here we go. It's the old logo. I haven't updated Zebre's logo yet, but there we are. Zebre are on the power rankings in the second row from the bottom. They're on 5-9 in terms of their overall season, which is the same amount of wins and losses as Connacht, which is a genuinely pretty good improvement for Zebre compared to recent years. And the rugby they've been playing is genuinely very entertaining. They absolutely chuck the ball around, and even if they got beaten by the Bulls, what was it, 63-24, they still play some crazy rugby. So that side of the game is entertaining. But yeah, I think they're 3 from their last 5. Like, they've lost the last 2, lost narrowly to the Sharks and lost their most recent one to the Bulls. But prior to that, they were on a 3-game streak, which is more than we can say for Cardiff, the Lions, or Connacht, all of whom are ahead of Zebre on the actual table. I would say Zebre's more recent form is just slightly better, but hey, you guys let me know what you reckon. Another one of the Welsh teams, the Scarlets, come out here in 11th. The Scarlets have been a bit of a mixed bag. 6 wins, 7 losses, and a draw, I believe. It's been, I guess, a bit of a struggle for consistency, but they did win an important game. Recently, they beat the Ospreys 38-22 to keep their hopes alive as we head into the kind of final 4 weeks. Their form has not been great going into that game. I think they're 2 from the last 5? But that was an important one against the Ospreys, who I've got in 10th. Them and the Scarlets, guys, there's very little to separate them in the old power rankings and on the table itself. So, 6, 7, and 1, I think the Ospreys are as well. They will be, I think, more disappointed than anything with that result against the Scarlets, because that was just an opportunity gone a begging in terms of facing a side that's below you with so few games to go in terms of the playoff race. And then one of the more frustrating sides in the URC did get themselves a win at the weekend, albeit only over the Dragons. Edinburgh, you feel like at times a little bit of lack of living up to potential, but they are also still in the hunt. They are in that all-important 8th spot on the actual table. I've got them in 9th on the power ranking, so still a little bit lacking. They're, I think, 50-50 in recent times, 2 from their last 4, but I'm not giving them that much credit for beating the Dragons at home. That's just the way the power rankings work, because the Dragons are not a particularly strong team. Even if they beat them, comfortably 38-5, still, you can only give a limited amount of credit for that one. The second to the top row, I'm going to chuck the Stormers in here into 8th spot. The Stormers season has also been a bit of a mixed bag. They had that kind of controversial game at the weekend where they had a red card. That would have also been a game they would have liked to win against Ulster. I think they are 2 from their last 4, which is 50-50, but they got a big scalp when they took the Bulls down in, 3 match rounds ago. So that's one of the biggest scalps to be claiming in the URC this season. So the Stormers, another bit like Edinburgh, you feel like it's a team that's performing a little bit below what they should be doing. Next, then we got Benetton, the top of the Italian sides. They're likewise got a good win. I think that's matching their actual log position. I think they're 7th on the table in the URC. They are 3 from their last 4, so maybe picking up a bit of steam at the right time. Benetton, they beat Cardiff by a sole point, which is not the biggest scalp again at the moment, not by the biggest margin, but it is a win at a time when wins are very important. Ulster, going through the power rankings week by week in the last kind of couple hours at my computer, at one point were way down here in the bottom, because Ulster's had a real dire patch during the season, but their more recent form is better. I think they're on a 3-match winning streak, which could not have come at a better time, because that has put them in the playoff spots. I think they are 6th on the table as well. So maybe finding a little bit of form, as I said, at a kind of crucial moment. And then next, I've got the guys who got beaten. God, I've got no room on my whiteboard. At the weekend by a youthful-looking Leinster team, the Sharks. The Sharks. If there's a Jekyll and Hyde side more than the Sharks, I'm not sure. They've got the roster. They've got the big-name players, but the results are mixed. I think they are 3 from their last 6, which is genuinely just the model of kind of inconsistency. They struggled against Zebre a couple of weeks ago, and then they lost 10 points to 7, as I said, against a very, very youthful looking Leinster side in a game that they would have been targeting a win. So the Sharks are very much still comfortably in the playoff spots. They are 4th overall, so they would be getting a home match in the opening round of the playoffs. At the minute on the table, I've got them 1 spot below their actual rank. Next, Munster are in 4th on the power rankings. Their form also at one point in the season was looking pretty poor. They were also kind of down the bottom row, but they have managed to lift themselves out of it with a bit of grit and determination, I guess. The coaching situation is going to have some stability going forward from next year, but against all odds, they've actually managed to get some wins. I think they're 4 from their last 6, which is finding likewise form at the right time. And I still think a little bit away from the teams I'm about to put in 2nd and 3rd. I feel like there's a bit of a gap between the next 2 and then the rest of the following pack. I've got Glasgow in 3rd, which is 1 spot below where they are on the actual table because they're in 2nd, which means I've got the Bulls in 2nd. With my power rankings, there's bugger all between them. I actually went back and checked everything just to do a quick once-over, and I found that I'd put one of the Bulls results in the wrong column. There was Glasgow first, so it's just snuck the Bulls back above them. They've both got very similar recent records. The Bulls did drop that one game to the Stormers, but I also gave them a decent bit of credit for the win over Leinster. It was not Leinster's finest or strongest team, but I'm not looking at the lineups when doing the power rankings. I'm basically just looking at the team that you are facing, and they're the only guys to beat Leinster. So there certainly needs to be a bit of credit given there. But I mean, Glasgow's record, I think they're 4 from their last 5. So also in cracking form. If you wanted to put Glasgow 2nd and the Bulls 3rd, I probably wouldn't argue with you much, because looking at my numbers, there was almost nothing to separate those guys. They literally have the same win-loss record in the competition this year. They're both 10 and 4. So yes, those are the power rankings for round 14 of the URC. There's a few surprises, but as I said, we're trying, I think, to lean more towards the sides which have got a bit better form than the others. There's still going to be a few storylines. I feel like for sides kind of 4th through 8th, because there's a lot of spots up for grabs and very little between the sides. But I feel like 1, 2, and 3 are definitely looking like the business thus far. But who knows? The URC has been really hard to predict with the playoffs since its inception. But you guys let us know your thoughts. Where would you be ranking the teams if you were ranking them? Let us know your thoughts, and talk to you guys again soon. See you later.